One of the things that I feel strongly about and have studied long and hard on is the life of David, King David. He had a heart for God, and that's what we all need to have. But I'm particularly fascinated by his last days. There are four things that I want to point out about his last days that are really challenging to us. They're at the end of 2 Samuel. In chapter 24, David numbers Israel. David refers back to his warrior-like characteristics. He knows God is not pleased with Israel, so he says, I'm going to go to war and straighten everything out. You know, there is the tendency as we age to fall back on the way we've always done things as opposed to listening to God. In the parallel passage of 1 Chronicles, I think it's 21, it says that Satan moved David to number Israel. You know, the devil never stops trying to get at us. And he never stopped trying to get at David. And in the end of his life, David went back to his warrior-like strengths to deliver himself from what God was upset about. And you know, it's tragic. God sent a pestilence among Israel, and 70,000 people died because David did the wrong thing. You know, when I get to the end of my life, or when you get to the end of yours, let's not be tempted by things the way we've always done them. You know, I'll fix this, as opposed to listening to God. God, what are you concerned about as I finish my days, as I meet the challenges of my life at this age? David didn't do that, and he paid a great price. But quickly, David learned from that, and he worships God. You know, I think that's what it means to have a heart for God. You know, you do hunger for him, but when you fail, you still hunger for him. You don't sit around and say, I messed up, God. I'm not going to have anything to do with this anymore because I have no confidence in you. You know, God always loved David. And David knew it, and when he fails at the end of his life, he comes back to God and he worships. And you remember he gets the place there in the Temple Mount where they built the temple, Mount Moriah, and he buys it from Araunah, I think it is. And he says, I will not offer to God that which cost me nothing. You know, so we need to worship God at the end of our lives, throughout our lives. Whatever day is, whatever the day is, and whatever happens, whether we fail, whether we succeed, whether we're blessed, whether we're troubled, we need to take ourselves to the floor of worship and worship God. I want to keep learning from David. You know, there's a phrase that I like, don't let me drown in shallow waters. Don't let me drift as I age away from the fundamentals of what God calls us to be. David did. He was tempted by Satan to number Israel. He paid a price, but he continues to worship. May God help us to always worship.